Good evening, everybody. What's going on? Happy Friday night. Here we go. Start of the weekend. I'm rocking my Melon app t-shirt. Thank you, Melon. This live stream is, of course, and all my live streams recently, well, the recent ones anyway, have been sponsored by Melon and are sponsored by Melon, a division of Logitech. Really cool. We love Melon. I love Melon. Anyway, not a promotion here. We're going live on LinkedIn. But just a disclaimer, if you will. And yeah, you can check the link in the video description on YouTube. Anyway, let's get into this. There's so much to talk about here. This is hot. This is heavy. I want to try to figure out how I want to shape this discussion. And I want to be careful with this discussion. Let's put that up front. I want to be careful with this discussion. I don't want it to, come off the wrong way. There's a lot going on right here. There's a tough job market, tough economy. People are losing their jobs, and we definitely feel for you out there. No question about it. What did I say though? What did I say? I'm jumping ahead, but let me set it up. I told you 2023 was going to be the year that reality hit, and it is hitting very hard. And I also told you for years now, when talking about Miami Tech and just how tech had gone so left wing, and maybe the missed opportunity with Miami Tech and just a lot of different things. It's not just Miami Tech. That was just, quite frankly, that was just the latest situation. That was just the latest thing that brought it to my eyes. And let me confess this. First of all, everything I'm saying is all my personal opinion, only not alleged facts, not casting aspersions, all for entertainment purpose only. Please check all the disclaimers. Let me say this. I had been in Silicon Valley, right, a while ago. And when I was there, in my opinion, it was the real deal. Internet 1.0, I've seen 1.0, 2.0. I've met some of the biggest names, Mike Morris, John Doerr. I can go on down the list. Boom, 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 boom. Legends, GDC, E3, Scott Rainey, Redpoint. There's just so many different names. And I was just blessed. I was in the right place, right time, whatever. And obviously, I'm a super genius, all that. But look, I've seen the real deal. And what I was seeing recently wasn't the real deal. But I didn't know how bad it got. Like, it got so bad. Like, it's gotten ridiculous. And we have to steer the ship. So on the one hand, I'm like super compassionate, and I feel really bad for like these are people's lives. And I've seen things written out there like the husband and the wife both lost their job, and then that's a terrible thing. And I'm not happy about that. At the same time, that's like, look, I'm not gonna say, okay, let's put that over there. Separately, totally different, right? What I say, value has to equal compensation has to equal value added. So if value's here and compensation here, that's not sustainable. If compensation's here and value's here, that's not sustainable. And so I really felt like what was going on with tech was just so crazy. Like I just saw it like with the whole Miami Tech thing, not necessarily slamming or casting aspersions there or anything like that. I've talked about that. I've had my questions and critiques of that and my credit to that, right? there's some and just to highlight that, if you don't know what's going on there, I didn't like the super focus on crypto. I was very skeptical of crypto for a long time and everything there, and that was really heavy on that. I thought that they did a great job of promotion and excitement and all that, but I thought it was light, in my opinion, on the substance, and I think it missed some opportunities. It missed some inclusivity. It was too heavy into the same old tech, left wing, rah, rah. I thought that the people that were in that orbit had great questions of, again, not as people, not as anything, but when you're just grabbing like academics from, I'm trying to be as cool and as positive as I can, not top tier like Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, MIT. And it's like, I just didn't see a lot of experience there. How about that? I didn't see a lot of wins there. And I saw it as like an inside type of deal. But I can live with all of that. Now, they did an incredible job on the PR side, and props on that. But I thought that the sizzle was way beyond the steak, if you will, right? And that kind of relates to this whole thing. But one of my biggest criticisms, and maybe it was just an awareness, maybe there was nothing different about what was going on in Miami Tech, and it just brought it smack to my face because it's been a minute since I've been in Silicon Valley. Now, I've been around DC, Baltimore, and that tech hub. Okay, I've been around Austin tech hub, so it's not like I've been totally out of the game. But like there was just left-wing thing after left-wing thing after left-wing thing. It was woke idea after woke idea. It's just like, dude, there was so much wokeness. It was insane. And I'm like, this is not like, okay, that's fine. Whatever, whoever you want to vote for, whatever you want to do, whatever your cause is, that's great. That's great, you know. But that's not technology. That's not business. That's activism. That's whatever. Now, you may say, hey, we need to improve this. We want to have a mentorship. We want to have inclusive. That's fine. Those are important conversations. Those are different conversations than business and VC and tech. Anyway, I'm kind of getting not off. It's really the point, or well, it's one point. It's a point. But I want to set the table with the news right here and to make it more relevant, because big names have weighed in on this. I'm talking Elon Musk, Keith Rabois, I'm talking Tom Siebel. I mean, huge names have weighed in on this. Legends in venture capital, in the Valley, in entrepreneurship worldwide, really. It's not even just the Valley. So I'm going to zip it, what I have to say, then I'll come back to it. But the content, like I've always said, okay, I'm nobody, right? I just know a lot of things and I know a lot of people. And if you listen to my stuff, you may be potentially like years ahead of the game. Let's get to it. So, you know, and we have to figure out where we go from here, because now there's people that are displaced, that have lost their jobs, that are thinking about, what am I going to do now? The tech industry, Silicon Valley Bank, you know, that there's been so much that's been happening, and even in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. Okay. So let's set the table here now, but I wanted to put that out there on front at the beginning, because I want people to understand the context of where I'm coming from. I feel for people. This is people's lives. Okay. And I wish everybody the best, but we have to be smart about what we're doing, and we have to be honest about what we're doing, and we have to be honest about what tech is, what venture capital is, and what it isn't. So let's talk about it. Okay. This is, and I'm going to put these links in the video description on YouTube. I'm not sure which one to start with. There's so many here that I can go with, but they basically say the same thing. Let's go with this. Insider here, Hassan Chowdhury, Shona Gosha, and Emilia David are the authors. Byline, May 22nd, 12:31 p.m. Quote, millionaire and billionaire CEOs say thousands of laid off tech staff just did quote unquote fake work. Okay. And that's why I wanted to say what I said before and to lead the program, because I didn't want to just run into these like articles and then it kind of has maybe a different feel on it. So like I'm with everybody, right? Peace, love, opportunity, freedom, equality, liberty for everybody. But this is a news story. People were saying this. We have to talk about it. We have to react to it. We're doing it right now, and I'll take your comments as well. I'm going to monitor those as best I can, but I've got to lay this out here. And it talks about sort of the bullet points here about how, you know, people are laying off. And one of the things the other reason why I brought in Miami Tech is Keith Rabois, who is now in Miami. Okay. Well, he was formerly with the whole PayPal scene and all that. And I think said this in Miami. He's now the quote chief executive of e-commerce firm Open Store. Okay, so this is quote unquote speaking from Miami at an event hosted by banking firm Evercore. Basically, he's saying that, look, people hired a lot of people. It's my paraphrase. Hired a lot of people kind of to like look great. It was quote unquote a vanity metric, but also to maybe as a defensive play or strategic play to take, you know, people and talent away from competitors and stuff. So there was some of that, right? And it's basically, so now here's a pull quote right here. Quote, there's nothing for these people to do. It's all fake work. Okay. That's from Keith Rabois. And this is a person that was, you know, he's made a ton of money. He's hooked into the whole PayPal scene right there. This is someone that the Miami tech scene lauded as a big, you know, catch, if you will, a big get, if you, in the media parlance, for the Miami tech scene. So this is someone that, in my opinion, with Dylan Asparov and the whole Founders Front and, you know, Peter Thiel, was kind of foundational to that whole Miami tech scene. So now look at what someone there is saying about that, right? And then you have FTX and you have the whole crypto thing. It calls, I don't want to say it calls into question. See, that's why I say I don't want this to be misinterpreted and seen the wrong way. Here's what I'm trying to say. In many ways, there's been big gains with the Miami tech scene in that it's getting South Florida and Florida to think about these things. I think the PR aspect has been great, but I think that the sizzle went way beyond the steak, right? This stuff is hard. I was there, like I've seen the real stuff. Real tech, real venture capital, real entrepreneurship is extremely hard. It is risky, right? It is not. I get to go on a bunch of ski trips and I get to like do all these workshops and I get to go to a bunch of meetings and I'm thinking about all the activism I'm going to do and I'm on TikTok and I'm on Facebook and I'm on almost social media and stuff. And that's basically my week and I get to be paid, high $250,000 or more. That's not sustainable for any kind of significant people, particularly when you're trying to build a tech hub. And when you're thinking like in an exclusionary fashion, like, hey, conservatives or Republicans don't need to apply, that this is all, we're going to go for this super left-wing thing, and it's all over activism. Activism is not venture capital. Activism is not tech. Activism is not entrepreneurship. Activism is activism. Anyone can vote for whomever they want. They can do whatever they want. That's fine. But let's not confuse that, ladies and gentlemen, people, with serious work. Okay, so let's get to this. But again, enough of me. I promised that I would zip it. It's not really, I'm a talk show host, so it's not easy to keep that promise. But let's go with it. I'm going to do it right now. Okay, so I'll have my comments at the end here, but I'm just trying to set the table so everyone's up to speed because this is like years of all kinds of different things I'm trying to put in a kind of one show as a summary, right? So that's a big deal, right? Now, Elon Musk also weighed in. And he's like, and this is like, I'm going to go to different articles here, but I'm trying to stay with this article right now. And basically, like, Elon Musk wants people to come back to the office and has pared down. We've seen what he's done with Twitter. He's pared down 70 to 80% of the workforce there, and they're doing, better than, well, they're still there, right? It's still operating. Like the world hasn't ended for Twitter. So what does that say? What does that say about the headcount that was there? Who's critical? How much? What do you need in terms of capability and staffing to really make a social media company work, right? That's the question. And what does that mean? And then, so he's like, and then also Andreessen, right? Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz, right? And A16Z, right? And it's like, he said that basically that, quote, it's whatever the laptop class does, including seemingly holding socially conformist opinions. Okay, well, that was in reference to what fake work is, right? And so, basically, like, it's time that these people are saying, Andreessen, Mark Andreessen, Elon Musk, Keith Verboy, like, look, it's time to, get back to work. It's time to be serious. It's time to like, all this other stuff, this activism, like, they're over it. But it's not just them. And then, okay, this is like a lot of the people in that sort of PayPal orbit, sort of, right? And then also you've got, David Sachs, who's also connected with Elon Musk, and punked out that video that kind of went viral, right? That was on TikTok. And I'm not slamming anyone, but it was basically like this. It was about like a day in the life of some young tech worker, and it was like, it was lunch. It was doing different things, and this is from David Sachs, quote, "Does anyone still work?" And Elon Musk, I think, reacted to it or something. I'm not sure. Let me double check that. I'm not sure about that. But David Sachs posted that. So this is definitely impugning the whole situation right here. I mean, you look at where we're at now. You think about, how about this? Just go back a year from now, just a year. Check out like posts from Refresh Miami, the Venture Miami people, Mayor Suarez, I'm not trying to, I don't want to, listen, this is not personal by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just trying to get real with people, dude. And then like see what people were saying then versus now. Even 6 months ago, right? I mean, like if you weren't involved in tech 5 years ago or venture capital 5 years ago or name it, or you don't have these degrees, you don't have you're not really steeped in this space. How are you all of a sudden like a super expert? Like, how does that make sense? Things make sense that make sense. How about that? I'm not trying to put any like qualifiers here, but things make sense that make sense. Once again, and I'll keep using this analogy, like I will never apply to be the head of a nuclear power plant. I don't know anything about it. Please never put me in that position, right? I don't, whomever, like, I don't even know how you would get that job. I would never, like, I'm not qualified, dude. I'm not qualified to be a chief surgeon. I wouldn't try to be that. There's so many people that got into the venture capital game. It reminded me of the tech crash, not the tech crash, of the housing crash, right? The Great Recession, where everybody was a real estate. It seemed like, obviously not everybody was, but there was a lot of people that got into the real estate game that were now real estate investors that quit their job to do it full time. And it's like, you know what? Okay, like I know a lot of people make money in real estate. I know like there's a lot of activity there, but guess what? A lot of those people, like 10 years before that, 15, 20 years before that, or like it's not, there is no magical situation where you don't have to work and you make tons of money and whatever, and that's going to be available for like tons and tons of people, right? I mean, things make sense that make sense and things don't make sense that don't make sense. Again, not giving anyone any advice. Everything you do is at your own risk. This is not financial advice or any other kind of advice, but I'm just saying it's common sense, right? It's just common sense. Like, what are we doing here? If everybody's a real estate investor, then who is a real estate investor? And my granddad was involved and did some different real estate investing. And I've known people, I've known big names. I don't want to drop names here. Well, I'll throw a few names out there like Perry Arriaga. I apologize if I pronounce that name wrong. But I've known some, I don't want to name more names, but I've known some serious like developers and investors and real estate people. It's not, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not a joke. It's a serious deal, right? I mean, it's not an easy deal. If you're going to be great at anything, it's a serious deal, right? I mean, just like I may think that I can drive a car pretty good, or but that doesn't mean I can go and drive it Formula One or something like that, because I can't. Okay, I straight up can't. So okay, let's dive into this a little bit more. But it's not just the PayPal people and some VCs. It's also Tom Siebel, right, of C3AI. Right, here we go. And this is from the Independent UK by Craig Graziosi. This is March 14th, 2023. Quote, CEOs accuse tech workers of doing, quote unquote, fake work as layoffs royal industry. Okay. And again, I feel bad for anybody that was laid off, for sure. And we'll get back. I'll have my commentary here in a little bit. Quote, another billionaire CEO, Thomas Siebel at AI firm C3AI, spoke to Insider and railed against employees who work from home, claiming if they want to do, quote unquote, 4 days of work in your pajamas, unquote, go to work for Facebook, unquote. So, I mean, dude, it's like, and then it talks about Elon Musk, who basically, in my paraphrase, very, very, rough paraphrase here, was kind of punking out workers that, quote unquote, aren't, quote unquote, making, quote, anything, unquote. And so there's a lot of discussions here. There's a lot about how some of these firms are really paring down. Some are cutting down like 10%. It looks like some are cutting 70%, maybe more. So it's all shifted now. Everything's shaking up now. There's another one here. Okay, so that's dovetailing off that article right there. So what do you think about that? I mean, where are you at on this? I mean, I think that I don't want to sit here and look, I feel bad for everybody and I wish everybody the best. I really do. And I'm a very positive person by nature. I'm sort of a live and let live, I'm like conservative, almost libertarian, whatever. And I just naturally love people, and I just am naturally super optimistic, and that's how I choose to go through the world, because why would you, I don't like the alternative, right? And that's just that's my natural disposition. But at the same time, I think that it's very important I think it's important to be realistic about stuff, right? In order to be, I don't know. I think it puts you in a better place to be realistic about things. Like if I want to go run a marathon, I need to understand what it takes to do that, right? I can't go do that tomorrow. I'm going to have to put a lot of work into that. And so the idea that everybody can be a VC it really felt like the last few years where everybody can be an entrepreneur and everyone can be a CEO and I'm going to be a boss and everyone can be a VC. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, are you out of your mind? Like, I know the people that are coming out of I don't know all of them, but I know, I've been around people that are, Harvard MBAs, Stanford MBAs, Berkeley MBAs, MIT MBAs, Chicago MBAs, Wharton MBAs, and people that have been in the business 20, 30 years that have that, yeah, they're a VC because they've sold 2 or 3 companies because they built them up and they built unicorns. They built like some crazy stuff that did some, before Mark Zuckerberg was like where he's at now, he was grinding it, dude, grinding it. And, if you haven't seen if you don't know, Elon Musk talks about how him and his buddies, he dropped out of Stanford and how he was just, really grinding it out and how it was not glamorous. It was not fun. I've been in Silicon Valley. I've been on El Camino, right? I've been on that 101, the 280, all those places, dude. Are you kidding me? Page Mill Road, all of these things, Menlo Park. I understand. I've lived it. I understand the 24/7. There's a situation when I first got to the Valley, full blown. Okay, my first year I worked, I didn't have a single day off in the month of April. Do you understand that? In my opinion, and it's like, dude. Nothing. Okay. There was one time where I was working 3 days straight. I didn't even go home to shower, dude. It was like, it's a different deal. When I went and did my own thing, I was working even more than that. Like, people were just confused out there. They are so confused about a bunch of stuff. Confused about what it takes, confused about what's sustainable, confused about the work ethic, confused about the level of talent, confused about all of it. And the entire world was coming to Silicon Valley to be the best of the best, to work hard. I knew people that left their entire families back in Israel, back in India, back in China, back wherever, right? And they were there grinding it out. Full blown. I would be on the treadmill and I'm working out. I'm doing stuff. I'm taking calls. I'm doing deals, dude. I'm meeting people. Oh, this and that. I would go to Il Fornaio in Palo Alto. We're trying to work out deals. Back of the Napkin, Buck's Cafe. All that. That stuff's real, dude. You have no idea. It's not, oh yeah, I'm doing my Instagram. I'm doing my selfie. I'm at the club in Miami. I'm going to Bimini. That's garbage. That's confusion. That's when you've made it. That's when you're done, okay? That's not when you're grinding it out. That's not real work. All these meetings, all this stuff with like left-wing causes or whatever, and it could be any cause. It doesn't matter. It could be right-wing cause. It just happens to be predominantly right now extremely left-wing causes. That's fake. That is fake, in my opinion, in terms of work. If that's what you're all about, fantastic. If you think that's a business model, if you think that's sustainable, if you think that's technology, if you think that's venture capital, you're confused, in my opinion. Wake up. That's not me saying that. What did Keith Raboy just said? What did Tom Siebel just say? What did Elon Musk just say? They're all confused? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And so there's some people that were even talking about, I even saw this other thing. I don't want to pull it in here because it kind of seemed personal and stuff like that. Seemed like a really nice lady. And she was talking about how basically she was hired and she was making a bunch of money. I don't know if I should name the number because I don't want to be, but it was like around $200,000. And she said, yeah, I'm in HR and basically we're not even meant to hire anyone for a while. They basically told us you don't have to do anything for a while. Now, unfortunately, she lost her job. But I'm like, just think about that for a second. So you can have an almost $200,000 year job. They're telling you basically you don't have to do anything. Your job is to hire people. You're not allowed to hire people for a while or whatever. I'm not alleging anything. How is that sustainable? Of course, that's going to be one of the first places you're going to cut. The company's literally telling you you're not going to do anything. That doesn't make sense. When you have other people out there that are looking for a $30,000 a year job, $50,000 a year job. There's people that are digging ditches out there, and we went through this situation where people are saying, learn to code and all this type of stuff. And let me pull this over here because I'm going to put this in here. And I don't want to get political with it, but it has gotten political. And we have to talk about that because of the bailout, the backstop, whatever we want to call it. And all these things are swirling around now. And what I'm saying is we've gotten way off course. And in order to make it work, it's got to be sustainable. And you're seeing people that know, that have been there, that have built things like Elon Musk. I mean, name me a more successful entrepreneur than that. Name me someone that has developed more technology than that. I mean, seriously, whatever criticism you have of Elon Musk, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, now Twitter, it's on a pretty good run. that's pretty strong, dude. You can say whatever you want. That's extremely strong. But one of the things that we had here is, and this is an interesting quote, and this is from, I think, the Business Insider, the Insider article here. I may be wrong here. I'm going to try to pull this back here. So I think, okay, here we go. Quote, several of the tech figures pushing these ideas lean Republican in contrast to the left-leaning tech workers they're lambasting, unquote. Okay, so, that's a very interesting statement there. What are we saying there? And how does it even matter? Now it's a political thing, but this is what I'm saying. To the extent, and I think SBF, like Sam Bankman-Fried talked about this. I think there's a quote in there. I may be wrong. He's talked about oh, if I just said the right things, I could do anything. That was, I never saw the quote. I was told that quote. So I may be totally wrong about that. That is my paraphrase. I could be 100% wrong. I'm not alleging anything. We can look it up. And if I find something, I'll put it in the video description in YouTube. But there was this deal of and we've seen with the Twitter files of how involved, right, the left was, and even, there's been allegations of government involved with technology and social media and stuff. And then we had this week, we've had the TikTok hearings up there and the discussion on that. So to the extent that it was almost like these make work jobs in tech, or we've saw this revolving door between government and politicians and policymakers and technology. And it's hey, yeah, there's these big money jobs, and people were, Wall Street and consulting was losing talent to technology because that was where the massive money is. And it's like Margaret Thatcher says, socialism's great until you run out of other people's money. And, so technology and VC. So in other words, if you were this unicorn company, or even like this massively successful high growth public company, technology, name the, I don't want to throw a name out there because I'm not trying to catch any aspersion or anything like that. But okay, if you're some multi, $500 million, $500 billion company, multi-billion dollar company, and then yeah, there's probably a few jobs in there that you could give someone a job where they didn't have to do that. But when it becomes, it's a matter of percentages. When 10%, 20%, 30% of your team really isn't adding, and I'm making up, this is totally fake, it's hypothetical to make a point, right? If hypothetically you had 30% of your team that's really not adding significant value, or the value they're adding is maybe 30 grand and they're making 200 grand, that's not sustainable. And that's cool when you've got the easy money and you're fueling up, and people are buying the stock and all, whatever. But at a certain point, it will crumble, right? Like anything else. If you can't add, I'm not saying everybody has to. I believe in marketing, and there's different discussions here. I believe in a lot of these things, right? But it has to add value. You have to be able to add value to make it work. There is a major discussion right now. Here's what I'm trying to say. And I'll take your comments, and we can continue these conversations. I'll try to, and I'm not, see, I don't want to seem like I'm gloating, because I'm not happy. I'm realistic, and I'm trying to arm you with information and to think about your own life and stuff like that. So if you worked at a tech company and you don't have technical skills, or you've never had a venture fund before, and maybe, you're halfway through your venture fund and none of your investments are working out. I mean, hypothetically, that could be a message, right? Maybe you had an investment thesis that sounded good, right? It sounded good but when you really look at it, looks a little more like activism than actual serious, than there was the activism mixed in with the VC work. And I think that, business is business, and saving the world. The way we've thought about saving the world in Silicon Valley back in the day, right? And maybe, I don't know, I don't know, it was we're going to make super cool stuff and things that work. Things are dramatically better. We're going to make dramatically better technology and dramatically better businesses. And that will make the world a better place. So if I have a better car that gets 50 miles to the gallon, that makes the world a better place, and it's a better product, and people are going to want it, and it's good business, right? I'm just making things up. If I have internet that goes 20 times as fast as the current internet, that makes the world a better place. That's different than, hey, this is my left-wing cause, and therefore, like, it should be a good business and invest in it. And in fact, we've seen, and there was a bill that was going through Congress, and I think President Biden vetoed it, but there's been studies and new information and new data, multiple studies have come out that ESG investing has worse returns than regular investing. Because think about it, anytime you're saying, like, I want this, I don't want that, or I'm only going to limit my hires to this, I'm only going to limit my investment to this, you are limiting yourself and you're limiting your opportunity. That's never a good thing. I look at everything. Again, a 50% solution, I'll keep saying this, I'll continue to harp on this. Maybe I may make a shirt on this, I don't know. A 50% solution is not a 100% solution. That's the same thing if I have an NFL team or I'm an investment bank or whatever like that, and I'm only hiring from these schools. I'm not going to look at these. I'm only hiring from 7 schools or 5 schools or D1 schools. I'm not going to look at all this. No, I want to look at everybody. I want to look at the Olympic athlete that never played it down in football. But you know what? That person can blaze a trail and they can catch, and somehow they're an athlete. I mean, yeah, give Brock Lesnar a trial because that guy can throw people around. He's super strong. Whatever. Talent is talent. You never limit yourself. Now, of course, you have to be able to like sort through things and do your diligence and have a process, and everyone has a certain amount of time. I get it. But you never, ever limit yourself of what you want to do. That is ridiculous. These things, anytime you limit yourself or you're only, you're not being as inclusive as you can be, you are hurting yourself. That's not good business, in my opinion. And that eventually it's going to catch up with you. So, look, here's where I'm at. I think that we've seen many different stories. It could be the Twitter files. It could be the SVB. It could be this stuff. It could be a lot of things. What I've been talking about with Miami Tech, the missed opportunities, all these things, right? And it's funny because I had to do my little research. I didn't see this. Not that I read it all, but I didn't see this from the typical Miami Tech sources. It's weird. This went down in Miami. I didn't see this talked about. So what I'm saying is this. We have to get back to fundamentals. We have to get back to reality. That doesn't mean we haven't learned. So I think this is my take, right? This is maybe where I differ from some of these. I don't know if I differ from some of the people that are quoted here. And of course, they are geometrically more successful than I am. So I absolutely may have the wrong take here. I get that. But my thing is, look, work from home is great. We should be flexible for other people, for different people. There could be people that for whatever reason that's the only way they can, or hey, they live one place now and they made the home places. But if you're working from home or whatever it is, whatever the way you want to engage is, you have to add the value. You can't like, hey, I'm working from home, but now I'm going on vacation for a month. All these different. I think I'm not saying this right. Let me revise and extend those remarks. I think both things are true. I think that on the one hand, I think it's important to understand how, because some people, there were some comments there that, hey, they're just trying to, punk people out and hold down wages and whatever. I think there were some quotes here. I have to find some of these things here. Let's see. Hold on one second. I'm not going to be able to find it fast enough. Oh, yeah, here we go. Quote, this is from the insider piece. Quote, probably some greedy VC looking to suppress wages, unquote. There's some comments. So, look, there's going to be there's different points of views here, right? I get it. But at the end of the day, if you're just honest with yourself and say, listen, if you were running a business or you're paying yourself, or you make your own pay plan. I've actually had the opportunity to pretty much write my own pay plan sometimes, right? And or certainly negotiate a bunch of different things. And the thing is when I look at these things, when I negotiate deals, I think about it. It's like, this has to work for the other side. It can't just work for me. If it doesn't work for the other side, it's not sustainable, right? You may get 1 or 2 big paychecks or maybe one deal, but you're not going to get the second or third, or they're not going to feel good about it, or not going to give you a referral. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? So if I want $500,000, I need to be able to generate them $1 million, 1.5, $2 million, right? It has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, I mean, we've all been in that situation. Oh, I bought a car at this place, but I don't feel like I got a good deal, so I'll never buy there again, right? Or I went to this restaurant, it was so-so, like food was okay, but I felt like I'd rather go to this other place, or whatever it is, right? So you got to take yourself out of this situation and be as objective as you can sometimes, right? At the same time, I think that if we force everybody to, hey, you got to show up in the office and you got to deal with the commute, and we don't care if you have, a sick family member, and this is all hypothetical, fictitious, right? I'm making everything up right now. Or if you have a child at home, you don't have childcare, whatever, you got to stay until 9, whatever. Well, then not everyone's going to be able to do that, right? Or if you're cool with people and like Gary Vee, you offer unlimited vacation time, or you offer flexibility, or some work from home, or some hybrid, or whatever, and people can step up and they can do that. Well, guess what? Now you may have happier employees. That was how all these perks and those foosball tables and all this type of stuff, everything started in Silicon Valley, because it's like, hey, we're going to live here. We're going to work all the time. We got to make it fun. So having a work-life balance, having a fun component, having a mission, having some of these things, that's where some of these things can make sense, right? Where it's like, it doesn't have to just be about money and profit. You can weave other things in too, but you have to understand both sides, all sides have to understand what the right mix is and how that all pencils out, right? At the end of the day, it has to pencil out or nobody gets paid for long, right? But you also are still dealing with human beings and people, and you got to be cool to them. And top talent is going to be different, right? There are writers that need to just incredible writers, or incredible talents, or that need to go off, and inventors that just have to go off somewhere and do their thing, and they come back and they've got the solution, or whatever it is. Different people have different work processes. So so what I'm saying is, you should be as flexible as you possibly can be dealing with people, and not have this hard and fast rule, but it all still has to pencil out. So both things are true. So you can't say, hey, we get all these perks and we get to do anything. We don't have to work. We don't have to go up. There was another thing, I'll put this to, where I think there was a petition for Amazon, and the HR head of it said, forget about that. So I do think that, in lieu of, if you can't show that a new model works better than an old model, then sure, people are going to go back to the old model, right? Or if company X has massive amounts of commercial real estate in offices and stuff, and they're kind of sitting empty, then you start thinking of like, what am I doing here? Why am I paying for that real estate? Or they feel like there's a certain amount of we have to be on site. This is an ongoing conversation. And I think we have to approach it. I'm not taking one side or another. I'm all for maximum flexibility. I don't care if I'm running a company. I don't care if someone shows up for an hour a week, as long as they can hit the KPIs. That doesn't matter to me. However you do it, I'm cool with that. But you have to hit the KPIs. So to the extent that you don't hit the KPIs, then that's a different, if you did it, if we try your way and your way doesn't work, then let's try my way. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think we have to be fair about that. We have to understand that. And not everybody can do every job. I can't do every job. I'm a super genius and I've got lots of experience. I can't do every job. No way. As I said, don't put me in charge of a nuclear power plant. Don't put me as chief surgeon. Don't even get me anywhere near a hospital, right? I mean, except, gosh forbid, as a patient. Like, that's not even like I'm nowhere near any of that stuff, right? That's not me. I can't draw. I can't do a lot of things. And just be honest about that, right? Okay, yeah, maybe tech's where the money is at, or VC, but that's hard stuff. Guess what? Tom Brady makes a ton of money too, or did, or whatever. I can't throw a football. So it is what it is. We just have to be real about it. But I still think that within these conversations, we still have to figure out, like, how can we bring as many people into the mix as possible? How can we mentor people? How can we be inclusive? I do think that, at least when I was like Silicon Valley, VC, does get kind of siloed and narrow in a certain way, but I don't think it's in the way that other people are talking about. I think if you want to go down some of those roads, I think if anything, it's more like it's conservatives conservatives that get excluded. It's a left wing group thing, but it's more of a, the normal cast of characters when I was there anyway, in terms of like, hey, did you graduate from, Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, MIT, et cetera, that kind of stuff. Or, who do you know? Or there's different things like that. And again, there's a formula that has worked. Now, I think that's not, how do I say this? I'm trying to say a bunch of things at once, and I don't want to misstep. And so let's say this. This is not going to be perfect, what I'm going to say, and I reserve the right to revise and extend my remarks later, and it is a live show, right? But I've always pushed back on this in this way, the critique of the Valley, because the Valley works, dude. The Valley works better than anywhere else. And it's not a hard formula. There's not really a secret, if you will, but nobody else does it. So if you think that, hey, it's unfair that whatever your critique is of it, it's not hard to go out there and do your own thing. Now, you may not have 10 million, 100 million, whatever, but there's, there's tons of money in all kinds of different places, globally and stuff. So people can step up and they can do this, but they haven't done it. Case in point, in a little bit of a different way, look at what's going on in Dubai. Dubai's on fire, dude. Dubai's doing all kinds of stuff, metaphorically speaking, like they're being very innovative. They're being very innovative in the sports space and technology. They're trying stuff. They're making it easy. Israel's growing fast. There's a lot of places. Singapore, there's a lot of places that are doing some stuff. And there's more places that'll do some stuff. It's what I'm saying is if the market works. That's what I'm saying. The market works. I'm a law and economics like savant or something like that. And there are times where there's market inefficiencies where you need to step in, you need to fix things, asymmetric information, monopolies, externalities, things like that. But ultimately, if there's hot investments or talent or opportunity, and there's always, Silicon Valley can't fund every opportunity, right? They can't service every opportunity. They can't do that. That just happens to be a super center, obviously. But there's plenty of other places that can do it and can roll with it. So instead of, maybe this is, Michael Jackson, Obama, I don't know, but that, don't be the change, right? I go out there and do stuff. So to some extent, I think that I'm somewhat sympathetic to the spirit, I think, of what I think's trying to be done, and some of this, left-wing type of approach to tech and VC or something like that, in terms of, if your goal is to get more people involved and to be inclusive and stuff like that, I'm down with that, right? But it has to still be fundamentally sound. And to the extent that things are not fundamentally sound, it doesn't matter what your cause is. That's what I'm trying to say, right? It has to be fundamentally sound. So I do think I've seen times when I've been in the Valley, and I'm not going to name situations or times where I think that, maybe the Valley missed it, right? And the Valley missed Google. I mean, they've for a long time, until I think Sequoia and Kleiner stepped. I can't remember the whole thing. I may be wrong. But I mean, there is, and I'm not saying this has to be this way, but there is a certain level of perseverance and hardship that comes along with being an entrepreneur, period. I've lived it, okay? I've lived it. And there's nothing that's just par for the course. In other words, I'm saying a bunch of things at once, and I'm trying to say them all right, and I don't want to misstep. If you're a visionary and you're way ahead of the game, right? And we see the classic in tech, right? Classic innovators. Then by definition, maybe nobody else sees it. So it's your job to create it, to get it to a stage where other people can recognize it, right? And you can't be mad at the world for not seeing it. That's your opportunity. Similarly, I think that you have to say, okay, well, you can decry whatever you think the Valley's missing, but you have to look at what the strength is, right? And you could say that, you can't say, well, and I think that academia and stuff, I mean, I think a lot of these places have gotten really off skew as well. And there's some recent stories that we've seen some of these things with and I don't want to make it, there's stuff in the news. There's been stuff in the news the last year, and I'll leave it at that. I may talk about those things individually later. But I think some of these even huge, great, amazing, mega names have potentially, in academia, have potentially gotten askew a little bit. But you can't say that everybody coming out of Stanford Business School is whatever you want to say, whatever characterization you want to say. Not everybody got in because they're, their dad or they're rich or whatever. I mean, and regardless, these are extremely, like Berkeley, like these big, like there's a reason why those are the top names, in my opinion, right? I mean, okay, I can be careful here because I know a lot of these people. All right, sorry, this is not great. I'm trying to be very careful here. I would say the high percentage of Berkeley MBAs, and again, you can do the same with the law schools and medicine and stuff like that. I would say the high percentage of Berkeley MBAs, Stanford MBAs, Wharton MBAs, Harvard MBAs, and each school's in Chicago MBAs, and having just like each of those schools has different sort of tweaks and flavors to them. Very, very impressive. These are very impressive people, by and large. Northwestern, very impressive. These are very impressive. And you have to deal with that. So if you're going to decry like, oh, hey, the Valley's missing it. These are very impressive people. Like everyone's competing with everyone these days. It is a global economy. That's reality. So in other words, if I'm going to say, hey, whatever, I look at a Major League Baseball player, I could hit someone in the stands, I could hit a ball, but really? Yeah, that just, oh yeah, that was the coach's son, and they just, really? No, probably not. Like, no. Perfect example, Jake Paul and his brother, Logan Paul, tremendously successful, incredibly successful influencers and YouTubers and the whole thing. And Jake Paul was beating some people, but Jake Paul convinced the world, and maybe convinced himself, that he was a pro boxer. Well, Jake Paul just found out that what happens when you run into not even the best pro boxer. He got beat pretty soundly. So it's what I'm saying is this. It's one thing to sit on the sidelines and critique for whatever reason. And there's different ways you can critique things. But it's another thing. It's easy to critique things. It's hard to actually build things and beat things, right? So if you want to beat Silicon Valley or compete with Silicon Valley, you need to step up and respect what is Silicon Valley and who is working in Silicon Valley and where they came from and what the level of commitment and the talent level and the education and all of this. This is not a joke, dude. This is not a joke. Mark Zuckerberg, yeah, he's a dropout. He dropped out of Harvard. Yeah, Elon Musk dropped out. He dropped out of Stanford. Like, this is serious stuff, dude. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that there is opportunities there. There's massive opportunities there. And I don't think that there's nothing special about the ground in Silicon Valley. Like, anyone can do this, but you have to do it. That's what I'm saying, right? It took me a while. It took me almost an hour. Anyone can do it, but you have to do it. And you have to be able to do it. And you have to be just straight up about what it takes there. And no, I'm sorry. I mean, I got to be careful what I say here. I mean, there's not a single school in South Florida that's going to compete with Berkeley or Stanford or MIT or Harvard or any of them. It's not going to happen, dude. Not on average. That there, you may find the anecdote here and there, and maybe that's what you have to work with. But you have to recognize what it is. And so if you're going to have a situation where, hey, we're just going to work with, and I'm making all of this up. This is totally fake. I'm just using an example, right? This is totally fake right now. But if you're saying, hey, we're only going to use people from FIU and we're going to build unicorns right here and we're only going to fund deals that come from here and we're not going to hire any outside CEOs. Oh, that's not a good recipe. Do you think that's going to work? And we're only going to use, we're going to only fund woke companies and we're going to do all the left-wing stuff and it's right here and people are just going to come here and they're going to fund it here because they want to be by the sand. I'm going to do the nightclub. Makes no sense. That makes no sense. Do I think those companies are going to do better on average or Silicon Valley are going to do better on average where you have a total ecosystem there where you've got the best iBankers, you got the best VCs, you got the best funding systems, you got, like how many public companies out there? You got Stanford, you got Berkeley, MIT's going out there, Harvard's going out there, Wharton's going out there, Northwestern, everybody's going out there. Who's going to win? Over time, over average. Like, come on. Right? We're smarter than that. So yeah, if you're not working, it all makes sense. 2023 is the year reality is going to hit, and it's hitting. It's hitting right in the face, dude. If you're going to do something, you have to do it right. That's what I'm saying. You can't, a good cause, you want to do a good cause, go ahead and do that on your charity. But you cannot expect people to invest in that over time if it's not working. You cannot expect shareholders to think that that's going to be a good idea. It's just not. It's almost like this bigger fool theory, dude. Like it's not going to work. So I wish everybody the best. It's tough out there. I think this is going to be a tough year. I think we're into the tough season right now. I think it could get even way tougher. Part of what I'm going to try to do with my channel and part of what I'm trying to do with my life, I've been sort of really buried and working on stuff. I'm not ready to talk about it now, is to try to give people solutions. I want to help people. I want to help the world, but you have to be real with it. It's no different than if I was talking to someone, I'm training them. I used to be a 4-time national champion, right? And I'm trained professional athletes. I've trained people that were training for the Olympics, right? And I had real, candid talks with them, right? And one-on-ones where it's like, okay, if I want this more than you want this, and we've got a problem, right? And about what it was going to take and what we were going to do and how hard it was going to be and the boot camp and all that. And I mean, I can't walk the walk anymore, but people understand. I have plenty of references of what training with John D. Villarreal was like back in the day, because it was like intense, dude, intense. Serious, super serious, because that's what it takes if you want to be the best, if you want to be world class, if you want to call yourself a champion. It's no joke, right? I mean, think David Goggins, think Jocko Willenick, that kind of stuff. That's different. I probably couldn't do that stuff, and all respect to them and that stuff. That's a whole different thing, right? They're champs in what they do, right? I was a champ in what I did. But people have to get real. That's why you see it's so funny, and I gotta be careful, because there is a massive underlying opportunity right now in a lot of things about getting real and about getting back to reality, about getting back to what's what. So here's what I'm saying. If you maybe you got laid off, or maybe you're looking at tech, or maybe you're in school, or maybe you got to think to yourself, and anywhere in life, it doesn't matter, just tech, what do I bring to the table, right? And this is a great post, and I apologize. I'll put a link in it. Someone from Andy Elliott's group put this up in one of my contacts now, about how, like, hey, a bottle of water, Costco's 25 cents, and if you airport, it's $5, in different places different. You have to think about, what are you bringing to the table? What's the real value there? How sustainable is that, right? All this stuff about quiet quitting and quiet hiring and all these things, and the tug of war between, management and owners versus the labor market and all these things. And it's all misses the point, right? And I think that there's nothing wrong with work-life balance. I've had situations where I'm like, look, I'm going to work 3 days a week. I'm going to work 4 days a week, or I'm going to work 7 days a week, right? But if I do this is what I'm going to do for you, and this is what I want back. Like, you have to be honest with. I'm saying, I'm going to go back to what I was said before. I'm a little bit jumping ahead here. You can be honest about what you're giving and what you're bringing to the table, and what you're asking for in return. And it has to be a fair exchange, right? And that's okay. if you're candid with people, or I'm like, hey, I'm going to be here for this period of time because I'm trying to do this. Like, I mean, you know, well, I'll save that for another video. So going back to that, there may be things like there's probably 7, 8, 10 different things I could do, careers I could do, right? Because of my different degrees and skill sets and experience and stuff like that. And if I do this, it's worth this. If I do this, it's worth this. If I do this, it's worth that. If I do this, it could be worth this, but I got to it might be worth that. And I got to invest in it and I got to put time into it. There's different hurdles, different things like that. So you have to put yourself in the best situation possible and think about what you're trying to do. Some people don't want the stress of the entrepreneurship grind. Some people don't want the big money, more problems. Some people don't want to work in certain industries. Like, you know, I've heard that from a lot of people, like, hey, I tried this. How many lawyers have I talked to? I really don't want to do law, or they got out of that, or I'm a recovering lawyer or whatever like that. I'm glad I went to law school. I'm glad, you know, I had that education and stuff, but different people have different things. Some people have said that about all kinds of different, you know, iBankers and consulting and different things like that, right? And a lot of these professions, like, you know, you're in and out of it in 2 or 3 years, or you're doing your own thing, or who knows what. The point being is, you know, other people like, hey, I made tons of money, but I never see my family. I never see my kids. So I think that from the other perspective, and this is where tech, I think, and some of these conversations have been important of, like, you know, we're human beings. Like, what is important in life? Okay, you have $5 million in the bank, and then but you die alone. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, you have to think about what's valuable to you and how you want to live your life. So, you know, you only live once, you know, YOLO. I mean, that's valid for all of us. That's valid, right? There's no amount of money. They haven't figured that one out yet, right? You can't spend your way out of that. And so what I'm saying is just be realistic. I don't judge anybody, right, in that respect. Like, you have to make your own calls. You have to make your own decisions. But you can't ask someone else to fund those decisions, whether that's hybrid work, remote work, activism, insert the blank here, if it isn't providing value to them. And I think we are at a point of inflection as a country, as its tech sector, venture capital sector, different things. And again, I apologize to my super professional friends out there, whatever like that. I'm a talk show host. I've got to do an entertaining show. And this is how I am. So I don't think anyone that knows me is really shocked by it. I mean, sometimes I'm really mellow, and sometimes, you know, but I'm doing a show. So I'm trying, I've got to be a little bit animated and stuff like that. But if you met me, this is definitely, there'd be no, those that know me, there's not a lot of difference, right? And so, if any, really, so it is what it is. But I think it's, yeah. How am I trying to say this? I'm absolutely the same. I'm absolutely authentic. I don't want to get distracted. I don't want to make this about me, but I'm trying to make it a point here. And this is, and again, this is actually a relevant point to what we're saying here. When you're doing a show and you got the lights, you have to do a good show. That's the job. This is the job of doing a show. So even though we're talking about serious subjects, I still have to do a good show, right? But this is me, right? So anyway, I don't want to get too inside baseball right now. So the point is I think we're at a point of inflection where we're going to get back to basics. But I also think we've learned things. This is my part of my whole meta theory too, right? I always believe in progress, that, you know, we're learning some different things. And I think that it is valid to say that we should be as inclusive as possible, and that it's not just Silicon Valley that can do technology and venture capital and all these things. Absolutely not, of course. But at the end of the day, not everybody should be a venture capitalist, just like not everybody should be a technologist, just like not everybody should be an engineer, just like not everybody should be a doctor or should be, you know, Olympic athlete or in the NBA, right? You know, that's the beauty of life. And if you're going to do something, then you have to do it and understand what it takes to do that. And things that are high reward, or, you know, risk comes with reward. Right? That's why. So if you're creating, the only way you get value is if you create insane value. So I do think, and I mean, look, the work that Elon Musk is doing right now from a free speech, political standpoint, technology standpoint is, I mean, thank God for Elon Musk. Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I don't care what your politics are. Like dude, it's needed. We all need to live together. And in order, if you don't have things that are sustainable, it all falls down. It all falls down. Okay, let's make an example. Let's do it. I'll start closing on this. We're gonna wind down here in about 5 minutes. Let's say we all said, "Hey, we're gonna be YouTube creators." Everybody quits their job. The doctors, the lawyers, the fire people, the government policy. Everybody quits. Everybody. We're all gonna make YouTube videos, and we're just gonna sit at home and watch YouTube videos. How's that gonna work? Where's the electricity going to come from after a while? How are we going to eat? Who's going to deliver? Like you can't, everybody can't do that. It's not sustainable. You see what I'm saying? Like it all has to make sense. It all has to pencil out. So to the extent that this is a return to reality, that doesn't mean we have to go back to it doesn't mean we haven't learned things. It doesn't mean we can't innovate. We absolutely can, and we should, and we need to, right? It all goes forward. But it has to make sense. So we'll see where it goes from here. But I think that, so I'll close on this. Part of what I'm going to try to do going forward, and I'm not ready to reveal everything yet, is I'm going to have a real focus on business and a real focus on entrepreneurship and a real focus on solutions and education and things like that. I don't want to reveal everything yet, but this is part of what I wanted to do with my life, is to help people and educate people and try to empower people and stuff like that. And there you go, right? And add value. And if I add value, then maybe I get some value back and everybody wins. And there you go. So I'll close on that. I hope I made sense. It was kind of like, but I saw that I had to talk about it, and I wanted to be careful in how I talked about it, because this is people's lives. It's their livelihood. I feel for people. I know some people out there might be real concerned right now and maybe are going through some stuff and are scared. And listen, we're all pulling for you, dude. People, men, women, people, we're pulling for you. And you just believe in yourself, keep working. And we're all in this together. That's the bottom line. We're all in this together. It all has to make sense. It all has to make sense. Let's work on ourselves. Let's improve ourselves. Let's do better. Let's work together. Let's help each other out. And let's learn and improve. The way I try to recession-proof myself and improve, I constantly try to learn. I constantly try to get better. I constantly try to iterate. I don't know what version I'm on now, but it's we're high. We're in the double digits. We may be in the triple digits, right? I'm always reinventing myself, and that's what you have to do, right? Good enough is never good enough. That doesn't mean you don't stop and smell the roses and enjoy yourself and enjoy your life, because you absolutely should do that, 100%. It's no one's life but your own. So hopefully this makes some sense, but over time it'll make some sense. But I've tried to tell people and warn people and educate people. I've been doing it for years now, right? I mean, you go look at these videos, it's all right there. So I will say that. So a very interesting weekend. We're in the middle of it. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much. I may be talking to you later this weekend. I hope you and your family and your friends, everyone's all the best. Thanks so much for being there. I'm John D. Villarreal. I'll see you next time.